I can't hear you either.
Okay. Everyone, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, we were having a few technical difficulties.
Good morning.
So can I get a mic check on everybody who's online? I'll just call you out so that we can make sure we hear everyone. So Ken, are you there?
Ken DeWitt is here. Good morning.
Good morning. And also, are you there, Wayne?
I'm here.
Okay, good. And are you here, Barden?
Barden Smedberg Jr. here.
Thanks, Barden. Are you here, Natasha?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Natasha. And then Enoch, I think I saw where you had put in the chat box.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay,
Great.
I can hear you. And then we have Carolyn Walker.
Carolyn Walker reporting.
Okay, and then we also have Levelyn.
Good morning, Loveland's here.
Okay, and Sydney, are you here with us?
Hi.
Hi. And then I saw Donald Mills. You are here with us.
Yes, good morning. Donald's here.
Good morning. Guys, just a few reminders before we go live. I gave you the run of show, and so I will be your moderator for today, and I will also be checking time along with Danielle and Dustin, so they are on the line with us. Danielle and Dustin, you can say hey if you want to. Hi. And then we also have Johnny Aycock in the room, and he's going to be watching as well, so Johnny's going to wave at you. And then we also have technical support here on our campus in Mike Pratt with our IT office. So thank you guys for helping us out this morning. As I said, I will be watching the time for us and Danielle will be my backup, but just a couple of reminders about your toolbar. If you will, our attendees will be able to type in the Q&A and they will also be able to write in chat. If you want to communicate solely with each other, just make sure that in the chat box, you are clicked on to all panelists. If you want everyone to see what you are typing, make sure you type all panelists and attendees. And then if you need to message me privately or Dustin or Danielle privately, you can do that by just clicking our name. And on the Q&As, I'll call your attention to those. But are there any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. Did the run of show help just so you would know where the slides were coming in?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, we're just a few minutes out, everyone. And
Just to be clear, one note that you had that was helpful was for the slides, we need to request for the slides to advance, right?
you do. If you will just simply say next slide, Dusty will take care of that for you.
Great.
Dustin, Ken DeWitt here. I think some of my slides have builds built into them. Okay, so I'll say next point.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Natasha, on your video, how do you want me to start it? Do you want to request it or just start it at the
Check
beginning
and
of
see
your
what
session?
somebody's seeing.
I think maybe let
Mhm.
me, once you do the first slide, I'll kind of do an overview,
Mike did
I
that
think,
yesterday.
of what the farm is about and how we got started. And then I'll just say, Dustin, could you run the video?
Sure, we'll do that.
Do you like that idea?
That's perfectly fine with me.
Okay, sounds good.
So guys, we're about 9 minutes out. We are at 2 minutes, everyone. Yep, we are at 1 minute. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tina Jones, and I serve as Vice President for Economic and Workforce Development at the University of West Alabama. We are so excited to have you here at our Alabama Virtual Summit on Rural Innovation and Entrepreneurship, especially since this was originally planned back in April as an in-person all-day seminar. And due to COVID and other circumstances, of course, we were not allowed to have it at that time. But we're grateful for the technology that we have that can bring us together, and that we are able to bring you a shortened version, and we will continue to bring these in spotlights. So this is our first go around with this, and I hope that you will enjoy our first take on a virtual webinar, and I hope it'll be the launch of many more to come. We do have a full day planned for you, or a full 2 hours, with a wonderful lineup of Alabama entrepreneurs who have taken their businesses to a whole new level, or who are just getting started. We want to hear about best practices, lessons learned, and how we can create a network that energizes our rural communities and jumpstarts their economies. And so today we do have a full lineup of that. And as we get started, our first speaker, though, is I want to take time to thank our sponsor, AT&T. And we have with us today Mr. Wayne Hutchins, and he is the president of AT&T of Alabama, and he is responsible for the overall strategic direction of AT&T's public policy. And in 2019, he was named one of the most influential executives by the Business Council of Alabama. He is going to present us with some opening remarks, but also some opening slides, and talking about AT&T and their direction in the future that is they have put forward and how they can help us. Our other partners today are the Economic Development Association of Alabama. We want to especially give a shout out to them because of their rural development initiative and bringing us to partner with Co-Starters in Chattanooga. And we have Co-Starters founder and CEO, Enoch Elwell. You'll hear him as he leads a panel later on. We also have DeWitt LLC and Ken DeWitt, who is the CEO of that, and they're responsible for business strategic executives and coaching. And you're going to learn a little bit more about what he does in his keynote for us in just a little while. And then we're also happy to partner with the Small Business Development Centers and the Small Business Development Association of America and Alabama. And you're going to hear from our director here at the University of West Alabama of the resources that are available to you as a startup business, or just as a business who may need a little additional help. And so that's one of the things we really want to stress today, is connecting to the resources, forming a network, and learning from others as you chart this course of rural innovation and entrepreneurship. So Wayne, I am going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jones, for the introduction and the warm welcome. And good morning, everyone. If we can go ahead and get the first slide up. I'm excited, and go to the next one, please. I'm excited to be here with you today, albeit virtually, and to share some of what we at AT&T are doing to help connect Alabama, and what we believe are the necessary steps that should be taken to enhance broadband access. But first, I'd like to pose a question to you. What if, in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, the internet had buckled? The thought is an unsettling one, especially for those of us who continue to work and learn from home 7 months later. During these unprecedented times, it is crystal clear that broadband is a catalyst for Alabama's progress and productivity. Broadband fuels jobs, education, civic engagement, economic growth, and now more than ever, human connection. At AT&T, we recognize that innovation and investment are key to sustaining the vitality of our networks in order to keep our customers connected today and in the future. AT&T has invested nearly $1.5 billion in our wireline and wireless networks in Alabama. just from 2017 to 2019. In fact, AT&T invested $135 billion in the US in the last 5 years, more than any other public company. But it's not just us. From 1996 through 2018, the broadband industry made capital investments totaling more than $1.7 trillion. Particularly, internet traffic jumped 27%. At the height of the pandemic, America's broadband networks performed exceedingly well, even with voice and data traffic patterns changing overnight. I'm especially proud of the work of our AT&T Alabama team that ensures Alabamians are connected and that our networks perform well. While much has been done, it's troubling. Some still don't have the internet access they need to work and learn. And it's most notable in rural and low-income communities. We recognize that there is more that needs to be done. Private investment by AT&T and others has been well spent, but private dollars alone will not solve the access challenge. Very quickly, I'm going to give you 4 things that need to happen in the near term. First of all, we must more accurately identify where broadband is unavailable with geographic precision. How do we do that? Congress must fully fund the Broadband Data Act, which is the new initiative for more accurate maps of where broadband is available. Second, we must take steps to modernize the FCC's Lifeline program. Lifeline should be funded through direct congressional appropriations instead of the antiquated, inefficient, and unsustainable excise tax on an ever-shrinking base of voice phone services. I don't know how often you look at your phone bill, but there could be a surcharge on there that is above 25%. That's the mechanism that funds Lifeline. Also in the Lifeline program, we should provide beneficiaries of this program with the ability to receive their benefits electronically and make digital payments in the same way the USDA's SNAP program with their food stamp cards. Next, a policy framework should be enacted that incorporates sustainable funding mechanisms for the long term and encourages industry investment through reasonable regulatory approaches. And last, as Congress considers funding for rural broadband in the next pandemic relief package, wired and wireless options should be given equal weight. Next slide, please. Smart policies and modernized programs can yield great results. For example, through AT&T's participation in the FCC's Connect America Fund, we are providing enhanced high-speed broadband connectivity to more than 63,000 homes and businesses in rural parts of more than 42 Alabama counties. Next slide. This effort makes high-speed broadband available to even more of our rural customers across the state as we work to meet our goal of delivering access to approximately 66,000 customers by the end of this year. Next, please. Those of us at AT&T that now more than ever, but we believe now more than ever that Alabama's first responders deserve reliable coverage to help them effectively and efficiently address incidents. And with FirstNet, that's exactly what we're making sure they get. I'm proud to say that thanks to the hard work of our FirstNet team, our new FirstNet cell sites are well ahead of schedule and have already launched in multiple locations across Alabama, including Anniston, Banks, Berry, Clio, Orville, Ranburne, Union Springs, and Woodland. With FirstNet, it's about where first responders need enhanced connectivity. That's what's driving our FirstNet build. The sites where we're building were identified by state and public safety stakeholders as priority locations, and they are being constructed using band 14 spectrum, as well as all of the commercial spectrum that AT&T owns. We have deployed band 14 across nearly 1,000 sites across Alabama today, supporting markets in Birmingham, Mobile, Franklin, Tuscaloosa, Cleburne, Lamar, Butler, and more. Though there is room for improvement in the broadband space, our successes in 2020 are in large part thanks to decades of bipartisan government policies that have promoted private sector investment in resilient broadband infrastructure. Policymakers weren't planning for the pandemic when they decided to impose a light regulatory touch on broadband, but good policy produces good results in unpredictable circumstances. It's important that we keep this in mind going forward. Thank you, Dr. Jones, and I'm looking forward to a great 2 hours.
Thank you, Wayne. And as he has said, broadband, of course, we all realize is so essential, and particularly it has never been more clear and in the last 6 months that we have all lived through together. And if you will recall, our first and second rural summits that we held were the Alabama Summit on Rural Technology. And that is part of the process and the purpose behind these summits that we have been holding here at the University of West Alabama is to focus on rural communities and the individual needs and challenges and also opportunities that we have when we talk about rural communities alone and talking about them and what actually makes us work. And so the rest of the day, we're going to really focus on those entrepreneurs, and broadband certainly is a big part of what they need. If they're going to compete on a global level from anywhere, we need access for them. And so our next speaker, Mr. Ken DeWitt, as I said, is founder of the DeWitt LLC, and he's an Alabama-based business. I think that's a theme that we're going to have is showing how we can grow people in their own backyards. And he is a lifelong entrepreneur. As you hear his story, you're going to hear all the different ventures that he's been part of. As you look at the slide that's in front of you, you see retail, agriculture, consumer financings, overseas travel, and commercial real estate fields, a wide range. And I think that's what you'll find out is that entrepreneurs, typically all of you who are out there watching and all of you who are participating, is there is a curiosity, but also you are not restricted to one area. And so he is going to help us today and take us through the process of how to actually be successful. And we're bringing up your slides right now, Ken, sorry. And we also mailed out earlier your pamphlets to you, and some of our people who registered the earliest, they received a wonderful book called Traction. So I hope they will take advantage of those resources. So Ken, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tina, and thank you to your team, Danielle and Dustin, and thanks, Johnny Aycock, for all the work that you guys have put together for this conference. I am very glad to be here. I'm Ken DeWitt. I'm hailing from Tuscaloosa, and I want to point out, of course, Zoom is a bit of a wild card for us. Some of us are coming in and out, but a lot of us have been in Zoom meetings, and I was in one where it ended after 40 minutes. And we figured out that the organizer had used a free Zoom account, and it was really later when we all talked, it was seen as, the automatic shut off is seen as the single greatest advance to meeting productivity that I've ever seen. And I'm actually willing to pay extra for that. Dustin, I'm counting on you that we don't have a free Zoom account today. So I am going to speak to you today about attracting people to your organization. But first, I just want to start with a little story about a couple that lived their life in the Black Belt. A gentleman was born in Gastonburg, which I can't remember if that's in Dallas or the adjoining Marengo County. At any rate, Marion Junction and Selma and Demopolis was the home of this gentleman and his wife, and they raised 8 children. They started out wanting to be farmers, and not many people really make it in farming, especially in the 1950s in dairy farming. So he was forced to become a small-time entrepreneur. Had a pest control company. He had a garden center. He truck farmed tomatoes and watermelons, and all the kids worked in the business. And he never made much money, but the one thing he did was get his kids off to move them to a state college where all 8 of his children got college degrees. And he didn't live to see any of that. His wife did. So the point I'm making is that business people struggle for the betterment of their family. And that's what attracts me to programs like this. That was my father I was talking about, my mother. I'm the seventh of 8 children, and I've lived a life that my father would envy. And not that I want anybody to envy it, but thanks to his sacrifice and thanks to the people who are building businesses, no matter how small, you can make an incredible dent in the universe with having a business. But we've got to be successful at it. And I do want you to understand that fully 90% of businesses struggle. Fully 90% of them have a hard time, not just attracting the right people. So what I want to do is tell you about a great discovery in my life that I've dedicated my life to. And Dustin, next slide, if you don't mind. This is called EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And it is described in the book Traction. I'm holding that up. Get a Grip on Your Business. I did not write the book. I wish I had. And some of you, most of you should have this workbook that we've mailed out to you. Some of you have the book Traction, but the workbook is where I'll be referencing today. First off, it's important to understand where people fit in your organization. What I've come to discover is that almost everybody's frustrated with their business at some point in their life. And the frustrations center around people, number one, profit, number two, not making enough of it, if I'm not being clear. The third thing is that the business seems to be out of control. I mean, it controls me. I work for it. It's supposed to serve my life. And so that's the third major frustration. The fourth is something we call hitting a ceiling. And it is about growing to a certain level and then not breaking through. The fifth is, gosh, I've tried so many things, nothing's worked, and I'm just frustrated. Well, the great discovery for me over my career in the different businesses that I owned was that when I found EOS, it became clear to me, as the author of Traction said, Gino Wickman, if you focus in 6 key areas of your business and strengthen those areas systematically, then you will have a better business. And so I was attracted to this naturally. And I've come to realize it's a great simplification of business. Business is harder than it looks. And I frequently say it's harder than it looks, but it's way less complicated than we make it. So I invite you beyond today to learn about this thing we call the EOS model, and I'll give you a website you can go to. It will help you to simplify your business and focus on what's important. So we're going to start with people, and that's where we're going to focus the rest of my time together. So next slide, Dustin, if you don't mind. People obviously bring us together in our business, and we can't achieve a vision in our business without good people. And in fact, people collectively create what we call a culture in our business. And your culture, best way to think about your culture is to think about perhaps your church. I remember going to Marion Junction, and I said, Dad, why are there 25 different churches here? In Marion Junction, there's barely 100 people. And he said, well, son, everybody's kind of attracted to their own kind. And I said, well, that's interesting. And I came to discover that's true in business as well. So your culture in your business is important to nurture. And you are the basis. If you're a founder of your business and your leaders are the basis, you tend to attract people. And there are guiding principles that define what you believe, and we call those core values in EOS. Now, a lot of people talk about core values as perhaps something for their website. This is not what I'm talking about. Next point, please, Dustin. We believe core values should be the basis on which you let people into your tribe or not. So we hire based on core values. We fire if people don't buy into our, who do observe our core values, and we reward people for being exemplary in our core values. So that's the definition I want you to think about, and I realize that all I'm going to bring to you today is awareness of this topic. In 30 minutes, I'm covering bits of pieces of this workshop that normally I go over in a leadership team and introduce over a 90-minute meeting, and then they learn it over a 2-year period. I was with a team yesterday virtually, and they were just telling the next segment of their business about what they had learned 1.5 years. And I said, be patient. You have to become a student of your business. So we're going to cover this little part. Next point, Dustin. When we've got our core values and they're clear to us, and we post them on the wall and our employees know them, and sometimes we use them in the ads that says, look, if you're this kind of person, you might be right for our company. They attract what we call the right people to your organizations, and they will actually make the ones that don't have the values go, I don't want to be any part of that company because I'm not like that. What's wrong with that picture? Nothing. Nothing's wrong with that picture. You normally hire people based on the skill and resume, and then you discover what their character and their beliefs are after they show up. And sometimes frequently you discover, they don't fit your culture. Next point, Dustin. So when you have a tribe that gets along, they naturally get along and love being around each other, and it feeds on itself. And this is what builds a culture in a business. Go ahead to the next point. So attracting people to your organization requires you to discover what yours are. They're not created, they already exist. And so what I'm going to do is take you through an exercise or an example of an exercise for your core values in the roughly next 18 minutes that we have together. Dustin, do I have another point on this page? I think I do. No, let's go to the process. Good. So here's where I would like you to find the page. I believe it is page, I'm looking for what's called the People Analyzer, page 7, page 6 and 7. And it looks like this if you are seeing my picture as well. It has the words the People Analyzer at the top. And on the facing page, page 6, there are examples of core values. But before you do that, I want you to think about a really great employee that you have that you wish you could duplicate. And what we do in the room when I help people discover their core values is, next point, please, we have each leader say, here are the 3 best employees I can think of in our company, and here's what makes them that way. So we're not going to do that right now, but I would like you to list on your People Analyzer 1 or 2 great employees that you have, that you wish you had more of. And if you lost one of them, one that you lost that you wish you could get back. I just want you to keep that employee in mind, because that's how we discover core values. We start with the good ones we already have. So when we do this, we nominate 2 or 3 people, and then we have the leader say, what makes them that way? So if you will, next point, please, Dustin. This is about sorting through what everybody says. Well, I want to give you some examples of what core values people might say. And if you look on page 6 of the workbook, you can see examples of core values: unequivocal excellence, continually strive for perfection, love to win, do the right thing, compassionate, and so forth. Do this for me. Scan down that page and think of 1, 2, or 3. Think of 3, kind of check them. that you believe describes your best worker you've ever had, and or the one that you have now that you wish you had more of. So I want you to transfer those three values to the people analyzer, the diagonal you see at the top, across the top, first three slots there. We're just going to use three as a sample. The process of discovering, everybody writes these on whiteboards, and we sort them out to come down to 3 to 5. So that sort out process, Dustin, the next point is called keep, kill, or combine. And it is a strange exercise. But see, we're not starting with the founder dictating the core values. It's important that your leadership team discover them together. Next point, please. And we test these values that we come down to by trying them out on our leadership team. So this is a long process. Ultimately, we're deciding what we keep, and it frequently takes 2 or 3 hours to come down to the core values that the team buys into, or several days or additional meetings. But it's important to then test it, and especially on our own leadership team. So we're going to test it, if you don't mind, on the people analyzer. Let's go to the next slide so that you can start to see how this looks. So if you had our company's core values, which EOS Worldwide is humbly confident, grow or die, help first, always do the right thing, and always do what you say. See, the core values go across the top of your people analyzer. And then you have your names of your employees. And I want you to think of a person that's not working out well, and put that name down, or somebody you fired, because in that case, that would be John Smith in this example. See, Sally Jones, and we rate how people score on the core values by simply evaluating. A plus generally means almost always they have this value and they display it. A plus minus would mean, frequently they display this value, but not almost always. And a minus means rarely do they display this core values. So you've got your trial core values there. You've got the ratings that you would put on each person, and just do it right now. Just give yourself is Sally Jones humbly confident, or whatever your value was. In this case, she is a shining example. In John Smith's case, not so much. He's a little arrogant compared to the rest of the team. He doesn't want to learn things. He's not a grow or die person. He doesn't really believe in helping people first. And sometimes Smith, not the right thing for our company or the right thing for the customer, and frequently doesn't keep his promises. So he doesn't score well on our core value screen. George Wilson is more in the middle. So what do we do with George? Well, it's important that you set something we call the bar. The bar means the minimum we will accept. And by the way, you'll never accept rarely on a core value. You might accept often or usually, and some that people are either born that way, raised by their mama and daddy, or naturally come that way. You might accept only almost always, which would be a plus. And so you must understand the bar. And so in this case, Sally Jones clearly passes everything. John Smith passes nothing. And George Wilson passes 2 of the 5. So what would we do with this? Once we evaluate our workforce, we look at the people that do pass the core values, and we say, thank goodness we've got them. We keep our eye on them. We praise them. We take, we encourage them. For the ones that don't, we start talking about our core values publicly and encourage people that these are the things that have to happen. And by the way, If this is entitled How to Attract People to Your Organization, you talk about these in the hiring process, but it's not just for hiring. It includes your present workforce, because we build the culture by having everybody understand what our core values are and observing them. So what do we do with George Wilson? We might privately take him aside after several weeks of talking about the values and say, George, you really do well on well enough on 2 of our 5 core values, but I want to talk to you about 3 of them. And I need you to concentrate on them and make sure you understand them and realize they're important here. And John Smith, the same way. You'd have to explain the same thing. What's going to happen to those 2 people? Well, one of 2 things. They're either going to buy in and recognize the importance of that behavior, change their behaviors to match the rest of the team, or they're going to self-select and say, you know what, you people are crazy, I quit. Now, what's wrong with that? Nothing really. I know it's tough to lose people who are good at what they do. We're going to talk about that in a very short second, as I've got less than 10 minutes left with you. And they are going to leave, and you're going to replace them with a hiring process that screens for core values, and you'll end up with a person that fits your culture. Now, let's talk about the skill side of the equation. So I believe, Dustin, if you take the next point, you'll see 3 additional things. Okay, one more. Get it, want it, capacity to do it. Write those up on your people analyzer. Here's the secret of the people analyzer. The core values mean right person. That means it's a right fit for your culture. GWC, or get it, want it, capacity to do it, is about right fit for the seat you have for them. Jim Collins talked about right people, right seat. Well, this is the most practical way I've ever seen it explained. It is to have a right person, they must sufficiently pass your core value screen. To have them fit the right seat you have for them, you need to understand what your seat is, and that's a different topic. It's called an accountability chart. But once you know what the requirements of the job are, you can ask yourself, does the person get it? Do they even understand or comprehend the roles that they're required to play in their seat? Must be a yes. You can't do a job that you don't basically understand. Here's the actually want to do that kind of work, not want a paycheck. Everybody wants a paycheck, but you only excel at work that you want to do, that you enjoy. So there is the people that are excellent at their jobs usually love to do their jobs. So do they want the work? And third, do they have the capacity to do it? The capacity is the experience, the skill, God-given talent, the maturity, and the work experience and so forth that says they can do that job. So to surround yourself with great people, you have to think right people, right seat, must have both. And all I can do is make you aware that that's what we're talking about here. So using your people analyzer, if you've done the work I've done here, you probably are recognizing people that don't fit your culture, but do fit their job. That's called a wrong person in a right seat. Well, it's a little maddening to have a wrong person in a right seat because they're so good at their job, but people don't like them, or they're difficult to be around. There's just something driving you crazy about them. Probably it is that they don't match up on your values sufficiently. And what you learn by reading Traction and understanding this EOS system, the entrepreneurial operating system, is you can counsel them and help make it clear what kind of things and behaviors we value around here. You're no longer destined to find out after you hire somebody what values they have. You can start to attract people. I've had companies tell me, we put our core values in our ad. Got a call from somebody who said, but when I saw that your people shared my values, I had to find out more about your company. So it can actually attract people, and it can repel people that don't want any part of what your values are. And there's nothing wrong with that. So let's think about the counseling side a little bit. Remember, it's a process of publicly displaying your core values, helping and inviting them to join in and fit our culture. And at some point saying, if this is not you and you can't see your way to our side, don't worry. You're not a bad person. It just means that you're right for another place to work. It's scary, but the people who attract the right people to their organization usually end up finding they need fewer people. I had a company in Birmingham I worked with, Corey Reagan. Charlie Reagan is a good friend. And he used this particular, you can go ahead to the last slide, Dustin, if you don't mind. He used this particular system, and he had 60 people in his business, and he was doing a certain volume, and a year later, he had 50 people, and they were doing the same volume. I don't know about you, but knocking off, doing more work with fewer people is not a bad thing. So where do you go for more information? I have a website that you're welcome to visit, dewittllc.com, and there are numerous blogs that I post on there. In this, some of which you can click on and go right to. The key ingredient of a great company culture is all about what we were just talking about, and core values and how you make them part of the fabric of your company. I will, if I can, share my screen. I'm going to show you one more website. And let me do that. So I know, Dustin, I'm stopping the other screen there for a minute. So DeWitt LLC, I told you about. One that I don't know if is in our slide deck is called eosworldwide.com. This is the entrepreneurial operating system. And I want to highlight to you this thing called free tools. What's wrong with free, right? Nothing. So there's amazing tools that are absolutely no cost for you to use to learn more about core values and the other 6 key components of your business. Things like an organizational checkup, there's downloadable tools, there's free ebooks, there's a mobile app, there's videos, and so much more. So I wanted you to know about that. Tina, how?
You are doing fine, Ken. I was going to let you close you out in about 30 seconds and then transfer. I want to make sure if there's anybody who has a question, they've put it in chat. But
Let's go ahead and see if there are any questions in chat.
Okay. So if there's anyone who has a question, or if one of our panelists has a question, please chime in as well, because I know that you can unmute yourself and ask a question. I kind of wanted to follow up, Ken, with one question is, when you talk about core values, I think a lot of times when we're trying to discover these, I think you stress the idea of patience. We get in a hurry to discover these things and so can you give us any guidance of maybe how we don't get in a hurry and we are patient for the good of our companies?
That's right. I've done a lot of work and work with challenged companies, and two things come to mind that I've said over and over about patience. The first is if you're in a difficult business situation, and most of us are or have been at one point in our life, it didn't happen overnight and it's not going to change overnight. So the biggest discovery I made was that studying the 10% who are successful and becoming a student. And so what we've discovered in helping 10,000 companies, our entire organization, not just me, 10,000 companies discover their core values is don't rush it. Don't think them up and tell everybody else. It's about the discovery and the process of participating with your leadership team in discovering what they are. Participatory decision-making brings buy-in. And the second thing that I remember and quote is that things that happen fast never last. So take your time. This was a good question.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you all today.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. And also thank you for agreeing to serve as our facilitator for the next panel. And we're going to hear from two entrepreneurs, again, Alabama entrepreneurs. And Dusty, if you want to go ahead and bring up the slide. And our first entrepreneur is Natasha McCrary. And some of you may have heard about her recently in 1818 Farms in Mooresville, Alabama. She actually was named in 2019 Amazon's Woman-Owned Small Business of the Year. And so I think, and she's going to talk a little bit about how she actually created this enterprise and created a national customer base. And if for those of you who may not know where Mooresville is, Mooresville, of course, is in North Alabama, right outside of Huntsville, one of the oldest communities in Alabama. And Natasha, I've enjoyed visiting Mooresville many times, and I also enjoyed seeing it on, of course, the movie Tom Sawyer and a film that it was once in as well. We also have Barden Smedberg, and Barden joined us from not too far down the road in Utah, Alabama. And the next slide so that they can see his. Oh, I'm sorry, Martin, we'll show your bio in just a little bit. But Barden, of course, is a co-founder of now what is called Accenture. And he is involved in many different business ventures internationally and locally, even from creating a bed and breakfast here in Utah, Alabama called Everhope and restoring that home, but also boutique hotels in Tuscaloosa as well. So Ken, if you will lead our next panel.
Certainly, Natasha, thank you for being here with us. How about you tell us your story to start out and what you've learned along the way, a couple of points.
I will. I sort of want to start off by telling you guys a little bit about how the business was started and close out with really what I think are my tips for launching and running a successful business.
Good.
It's interesting. So we live in Mooresville, Alabama, and the population is 58 people. So 5'8". I always tell people that, not 58,000, 5'8". So we started in 2012. We were on a family vacation, and my middle child at the time was 8, and he fell in love with this South Down baby doll sheep. And kind of here is what they look like.
Oh, yes.
Adorable.
Fall in love with that.
They look like smiling teddy bears. And all he could talk about was starting a business to buy this sheep and sell the wool, sell the manure, rent it for nativity scenes. And at that point in my life, I was ready to, all of my kids were going to be in school. We were going to start just a small agritourism business. Really the reason that we started this is I wanted to show my children how you can take a concept, you can build a business plan, and with hard work, we were not only teaching them about sustainability, but really how to build a business. I mean, they'd had a lemonade stand, a cookie stand, but this was really a family building business that I felt like later in their lives was going to benefit them. Little did I know where we are today. They're working for our company right now in the summers and off season. But like I said, we were going to primarily be agritourism, grow produce. And then what happened is over the years, our business has pivoted. We still do agritourism. It's been a little bit different with COVID. I think COVID has affected everyone who's on here today. If it hasn't, I'd love to hear how it didn't. But we are now, what happened the first season, we did farmers markets selling the produce. And when the frost came, I had to have a way to feed the animals because my husband's a businessman. We're not going to have any business that we have to take a loan out. So I started creating soaps and lotions and different types of bath products. And that from there is really how the business has grown is a big part of what we do. We're multifaceted, so we're a little bit different probably from most companies there. We're the agritourism. Now we're a commercial flower farm. And then we have the line of bath products where we're in around 500 stores in the United States, like 45 states. And then we also sell to consumers. So a big push for us is we do sell directly on our website. And we'll talk a little bit about how, as any business, you have to invest money in a great website to be successful. That's just the way that technology is today. But a huge part of our success has been our partnership with Amazon. I think a lot of people are unaware that 50% of the businesses on Amazon are small businesses. And they have supported us so much over the years and really building our business. We're actually on a part of Amazon that's called Amazon Handmade. It is a very curated gift section. Like you are vetted, you have to give a tour of your office space. You have to talk about production. You have to hand make every product on there. And Amazon was gracious enough to send a team out just to really focus and highlight on what our business is about. And I was going to get you guys to show that, and then we'll go into my tips for what I feel like is a successful business launch.
That's awesome. So, Dustin, you're going to bring up the video.
Try to sit and face me, and a little to the right. Perfect. Nice.
To become a cover guy or a cover girl, you have to have a clever personality.
Hold on to that right there. Now we're showing up.
Come up here. Come on, girl.
Perfect.
1818 Farms is located in historic Mooresville, Alabama. We're not only a working flower farm, but we also have a line of handcrafted bath and lifestyle products. The farm animals are our cover girls and cover guys for our products. We started out at our tiny little post office delivering a handful of packages. There are a lot of times owning your own business where I think you do hit a wall, and it can be hard. Your product has to be in front of people on that other end of the computer for them to see it. We have to really be thinking about how can we build the brand as a whole. Working with Amazon is a total game changer. It's the credibility it offers a small brand like ours.
Oh my gosh, that looks really good.
We've seen consistent growth year after year after year.
We won the
To now be recognized as the Amazon Women-Owned Small Business of the Year with the farm animals.
How can you not love that face?
With the flowers.
These look pretty good too.
Making the products. It's a great achievement.
That's awesome, Natasha. I know you're going to get to your points, but one I want to make sure you include is when you said sometimes you hit a wall. And that's what I was alluding to about a frustration called hitting a ceiling, hitting a wall. Will you make sure you include what you did when that happened in your points? So I didn't want to take you off your script, but
Oh no, I totally, and I'll get into that a little bit. I think dealing with COVID was a huge wall for any business. Yes. Because if 50% of our revenue comes from wholesale accounts. When COVID hit, there was 0 orders, but luckily we had engaged and built our own email list. We have built followers on social media. We had a consumer website. Without that, I don't know where we'd be today. And we'll touch on that in one of my really important points, something you need to be thinking about.
All right.
It's interesting, especially hearing from you and Wayne, without the employees and without the internet, any new business, you're going to hit a wall. I mean, those are the most important things. What I always tell people when they're trying, a lot of entrepreneurs will contact me and say, okay, I just don't know what to do. How should I start? Well, I think this is really business 101, but you have to find, you alluded to this, you find something you're passionate about. Because I years ago heard, if you find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, guess what? We work 7 days a week, 365 days a year, but it's not work. I mean, I know people will laugh at that, but it is true. I have had jobs and they were work. This is work, but it's totally different. I think too, as an entrepreneur, you're wired differently to begin with. Find what you're passionate about, but you have to have a solid business plan and a business model that meets a customer's need that is not being met. When you're starting a business, if there's something out there, there are not many flower farms around me. There were not many businesses that created quality handcrafted products with simple ingredients that worked in the beauty line. There weren't a lot of agritourism destinations. Like I was thinking about those unmet needs, and you need that to be successful, or else you're just another company. The next thing, and I think you alluded to this also, is you provide quality products and unique experiences, but keep your attention on the fine details and never cut a corner. I tell our employees over and over and over, you get one first impression, not two. If you don't provide the product or the experience that people are expecting, you will not have a repeat customer. We are always thinking long-term. And when I say long-term, I'm not thinking about 6 months, I'm thinking about 5 years. I'm thinking about what does this decision that I'm making today, how could this affect our business in 5 years? And you really have to be thinking about that. I mean, there are short-term decisions, but you're also thinking long-term. And I think that's hard for a lot of people who aren't entrepreneurs and you're getting your feet wet. But like I said, do not cut corners on photography, on little details on your products. If it's us arranging a bouquet that goes to home delivery, it's that first impression. We are always customer centric. Have a marketing background, so my mind thinks about, like going back to the beginning of the business model, what is an unmet need that we can provide a business, a service, or a good, and find ways to engage digitally, which goes back into the importance with Wayne. If you have to, print media is virtually dead nowadays. You have to engage with your customers digitally, whether it's social media, blogs, your website. We just launched a YouTube channel. Especially during the pandemic, people are hungry for knowledge. And sometimes you go beyond things that I do in a daily life of how we plant a flower, how we harvest a flower, how we prepare our beds. There are people out there who you build brand loyalty by adding value, by providing value added. I can't stress enough, value added is so important in any part of your business. The next thing, build a deep email list. And that goes back to hitting the wall. If we had not had an email list and it doesn't happen overnight, you guys.
No.
We've been working on this email list for 8 years. We didn't get an email list with thousands of people in 2 months. Because not only do you want an email list, you want an organic email list. You want people who are truly interested in your business and your products, because that's going to result in sales and results from their interest in your business. So don't go out and buy emails. I'm not recommending that. Go out and organically build your list. So important. And really, I should say this every day, Ken, this is reinforcing what you're saying. Your people and your employees are the most important asset your company has. I have employees that if I disappeared today for 6 months, they would run this company as if it's their own.
Right.
That doesn't happen easily.
No.
We are so lucky that we have that. When we're hiring, I always think, I really go through referrals and getting recommendations. I think a lot of people they find somebody and they just think that they're great. They skip over that. You really need to dig into those referrals. Mm-hmm. I also always try and pay more than I think I can afford if it's the right person. And we reward our employees. I will pay them a bonus before I take a bonus, because these are great employees. And I want to retain them, because you will never achieve scale in your business if you're constantly retraining. Especially in our business like we have, everything is hands-on. Mm-hmm. So if out of everything we say today that I've said, other than the business plan, your employees are your most important asset, and it will create a success or a failure in your business. That's just the way it is. And probably my biggest tip, and my dad told me this years ago, is don't be afraid to make a change in your business if something isn't working. He told me years ago, if you're digging a hole, don't keep digging the hole and burying yourself. it's okay to make a change. Not everything is going to be a success. And what I tell my employees is, instead of failures, we call them learning experiences. And we hope a lot of learning experiences we hope to never replicate again. But don't be afraid to make a change. You don't want to venture too far off of your business plan, but if in your gut, if you know something's not working, you want to make changes.
Your story sounds a lot like mine. Someone once said, you're an overnight success, Ken. I said, yes, after 35 years, I am. So I'm trying. So were there questions for Natasha?
I don't see any at this time. I do have one question that we had was, y'all both have been talking about employees, but sometimes when somebody's getting started or they're a single business, how do you sometimes handing over a little bit and giving away some of your control, I think is scary for entrepreneurs or small businesses. So can you talk a little bit about that, of how you share?
I think for me, and Ken, you can chime in, you have more experience in this than me, is it isn't something you do overnight, but in your business, there are those employees who you never have to have a to-do list for. It's the employee that it's not their job, but they take out the trash. Mm-hmm. It's the employee that is a self-starter. I know that's kind of a buzzword. They get the job done right every time, and they just have ownership. It's not every employee is that way. Luckily, I would say the majority of ours have been with us years. But you also, to be successful, you have to get in the helicopter sometimes. As an owner of a company, I can't be at the corporate office every day. I can't be in the flower field every day. I can't be at every tour. At some point, you have to step back and look at the big picture and be in the helicopter, or else nothing's going to run the way it should.
Mm-hmm.
I would echo that. And she mentioned a few phrases that sound like core values to me, that if you remember, but they have this work ethic that matches and so forth. And so all I can say quickly, because we got to get to Barden, is right person, right seat. If you don't have right person, right seat, they match your culture and their job. You cannot delegate to a wrong person, right seat, or a right person, wrong seat. It just doesn't work. So thank you, Natasha. Is it time, I'm guessing, to go on to?
Yes, I was going to say, so our next
thank you
panelist is Barden. So Ken, I'm going to let you transition to Barden right there. Sorry, my tongue seems to be a little tied this morning. But Natasha, thank you, and I hope you'll stick around, because I know that we may have additional questions at the end for you as well. So Ken?
Well, I met Barden when I years ago when I came across his amazing bed and breakfast, and another example of a native son who's gone out and found the world and learned from it and is bringing that knowledge back. I mean, you can read about him and everything, but he's a remarkable gentleman. And Barden, let's hear what you have to say. Let's make sure you're unmuted. Yes, good. Back
Ken,
to
thank you for your kind words, Ken. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be with others in this summit that have the entrepreneurial mindset. I want to thank the University of West Alabama, Johnny Aycock. Thank you so much for having invited me to be a part of this. And Johnny, I certainly, look forward to working with you in the future too, with your Rainforest Leadership Group, LLC. And just thank you again for making me a part of today. I am excited to be a part of today, because I think that the power of association matters, Ken, and to be around incredibly smart minds like you and others on this call, it encourages and inspires. And to me, this is what I think the summit's about. And it's about trying to encourage and inspire other Alabama entrepreneurs. And I think there's plenty of opportunity. And I think that opportunity often starts with the network and associating yourself with others that can really help you achieve your goals. And so I hope that some of these slides that I have today will inspire, encourage, and help others bring more entrepreneurism to Sweet Home Alabama.
Yes, let's see them.
So Dustin, can we go to the next slide? This is what I called it, the Back to the Future movement. We got into the day and age where mass production equaled quality control. And, you know, we throw Chef Boyardee ravioli into a can and we call it Chef Boyardee, and it's good for mankind. And we travel anywhere in the world, Chicago, Boston, New York, Atlanta, London, Tokyo, Dalian, and we want to stay in the same four walls or roof anywhere called Holiday Inn. And really what mass production has done is it's made us the same. And there is such incredible opportunity, as each of us has seen. Dustin, if you'd be kind enough to go to the next slide, there's incredible opportunity in enabling customers to be one of a kind. And this graph, which I brought from interopen.com, is where I pulled this from, and you'll see the reference point in the bottom left if you want to use it in the future. But I call it Back to the Future because if we look back at the 1850s, we'll see on this graph craft production. And now we look here today, and there's so many companies, so many entrepreneurial opportunities around personalization and making people feel one of a kind. So let me just provide a few examples. The farm to table movement. It's not uncommon now for us to go and dine at a nice restaurant and for that restaurant to tell us where exactly the collard greens came from. For example, from Utah, Alabama, right? To make us feel like, wow, this is a unique, special meal, locally sourced, right? Not some big mass production shipped to everyone. With concerns to medicine, you know, we got into this day and age, if we're 6'5", 300 pounds, or if we're 5 foot, 100 pounds, you know, take 2 Tylenol, wake up in the morning and you'll feel better. Well, now we're getting back into compounding medicine. It used to be that medical doctors back in the day were compounding pharmacists. There weren't the big companies that were able to mass produce medicine. And of course, we're so thankful for these large companies like Takeda, like Merck, like Pfizer, and like others. But there's also opportunity to look at you, Ken, to look at Natasha, to look at me. What is our blood type? What is our size? What is our family history with concerns to medical conditions, and to make a medicine special for us? And I think we're going to see this type of personalized medicine continue to grow in our lifetimes. Next slide, please, Dustin. Here are some examples of Sweet Home Alabama and entrepreneurism that's happening right here. So Jeff Gentry, through his leadership, created the Bama Wise group, and you see large companies like Publix, Piggly Wiggly, and Kroger and others really demanding local, wanting 1% of their aisles to have local production, local produce. And so Jeff Gentry's created this company that solely focuses on distributing items that are made in the state of Alabama. Next slide, please, Dustin. We're all familiar with the shared society, whether it's Uber, whether it's Lyft. I focused here today on Airbnb, and I wanted to, again, inspire and share this story of local families that are making good additional multiple streams of income off of the shared society. And here's a graph from 2016 where approximately $7 million was made by Alabama families off the shared society, specifically with Airbnb. And if we fast forward to 2020, and I believe this graph was created pre-COVID, so the numbers may not be exactly accurate, but the trend is exponential. And the prediction is that we're hitting in excess of $100 million of people opening up a unique experience, a one of a kind experience in Alabama, not four walls and a roof that is the same anywhere in the world. And I think that, the shared society is enabling any of us to share our experiences with others. And this is very, very powerful. And this really supports local entrepreneurism. Next slide, Dustin. And this is my final slide. So this is one of the brands that I've been involved with and that I founded, and I've named it College, and it's focusing on university campuses, on university communities. And here's two examples here. Everhope Plantation in Utah, Alabama. You think, wow, well, Utah's not exactly the University of Alabama. And you're right, it's about 35 miles away. But remember what we spoke about earlier, is that mass production has a place, but we want to feel one of a kind. And so I've tried to create once in a world experiences for university families. And so if they want to come and see Southern history, families at the University of Alabama who are from out of state, from Chicago, wherever, and have a student at Alabama, if they want to see Southern history, if they want to see the incredible architecture of Big, Bold, and Beautiful, if they want this heritage and historic experience, they can come. And simultaneously, if you think about a big football weekend at the University of Alabama, it's not uncommon for a hotel room to be $800 a night in Tuscaloosa. Well, why not come a little bit outside, see a local small historic town called Utah, Alabama, and stay for less than half the cost? And the bottom right of my slide shows my Crimson Tide themed boutique hotel there at the University of Alabama in downtown Tuscaloosa, next door to Embassy Suites and Hotel Indigo. And, the thought here was that if we were to take a picture together today at a hotel, at a chain, we could look at that picture, our grandchildren could look at that picture 50, 60 years from now and be like, which hotel was that? Where exactly were they? With my properties, with College, if we took a picture together, Ken, there would be no doubt that you were at the University of Alabama, surrounded by Alabama and Crimson Tide history. So in conclusion and in summary, I think that there's tremendous opportunity in the state of Sweet Home, Alabama, for entrepreneurs to create unique, wonderful Southern experiences that can make their customer feel special and that can grow our income and opportunities for citizens of the state of Alabama.
Very nice. Something that struck me that when we moved from Demopolis as a family in 1966, the most travel I'd ever done was the occasional train ride up to see my mom's family in Cincinnati. And then my first time on an airplane was after I had graduated the University of Alabama. Now you've traveled a lot, and obviously you've seen these ideas. Did you think them up, or did you notice them somewhere else? The ideas that you come up with.
Sure. So Ken, I think that to just step back before I answer that good question, I think that the entrepreneurial mindset in this day and age, it's absolutely pivotal, absolutely critical. Whether we work at a large corporate company, I had the great pleasure of growing up in the Anderson Consulting and Accenture family and being a part of that initial public offering. And what I learned is that even when you're at a big company, there is always competition. And so you have to listen to the customer and you have to innovate continuously. And we've got examples of that like Blockbuster, Netflix, and so many others. So that's where my entrepreneurial mindset was developed. And I think, Ken, that, I got tired of staying in the same around the world. And I wanted to meet locals. I wanted to experience locals. I wanted to have an opportunity to maybe have extra special doors open to get into a special temple or shrine. And locals, they know the community and they can point us to what is special to them and share that experience with us. So I realized this, and I thought, now that we have the internet that enables us to literally reach millions of potential customers in a moment of seconds, that the time's right to do this, Ken.
Yes, it is. And Natasha, let me pose the question to you. Some of your ideas you thought up as Barden was experiencing things and thinking, well, I would like that. I would like something different. Some, I like to call it the R&D method. You would think research and development, but someone once called that rip off and duplicate. Now, if we're stuck in our town and can't travel all over the world and experience things, Barton made the point. There are other businesses in Alaska or something else that you can find great ideas around. Did you think of every one of your ideas, or did some of them, Natasha, come from noticing other businesses?
I'd say a lot of them we thought up, but it comes from, I have a creative mind. However, it came from, let's say we shear the sheep every year and people say, hey, I've never seen it. So tell me more about that. So we knew, obviously, that's a great new day to offer at the farm. So a lot of it may be something that a customer says, but it's something we're already doing.
That's right. So my whole point is you don't have to travel the world to find the best ideas. Just sit and do what we call on the business time. Michael Gerber wrote a book, and I think we're out of time, but called The E-Myth Revisited, and he coined the phrase on the business versus in the business. And it sounds like both of you are really experts at working on your business.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys for that panel. I think you brought up some really good points. As I was listening to it, some things that really kind of stuck home for me was this idea. Natasha, you said, you've started a YouTube channel, and part of it was that you found your customers were hungry for knowledge. And then when I'm listening to Barton, I'm seeing customers who are hungry for authenticity and experiences. And I think it holds true for Natasha as well. And so I think you both, and along with Ken, you bring up this point of listening to the individuals who are out there, looking for what's in our own backyard, because sometimes we may take for granted, like you were talking about, Natasha, you shear sheep, that's just something you do. But hearing and listening to that customer, and suddenly you have this idea for an agritourism business that, hey, this is something somebody might want to experience. They might want to see or understand where or how it starts, that wool coat that they wear every day, if you think about it. Because I see that all the time. And I think you're right that those entrepreneurs are those people who are looking for innovative ways to think about stuff that's around us a little bit differently. And so I really appreciate you reminding us of that fact, and also reminding us that we should never separate the words innovation and entrepreneur. They go hand in hand. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
A pleasure.
As we move on to our next panel, I want to encourage you again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to write anything in the Q&A or the chat. Again, we will be sharing these resources that you hear being mentioned after the webinar. We'll also be sharing the slides so that you can have those as well. As I promised at the beginning, we were going to hear from Enoch Elwell, and he is also an entrepreneur in his own right. And as you look at his slide, you're going to see that he started with a grade school popsicle stand and moved up from there. And currently he is the founder and CEO of Co-Starters. And we have the fortunate pleasure of having 3 individuals from right around our region who have worked with Co-Starters and are going to tell you a little bit about their story. But Co-Starters is located in Tennessee, and they are very interested in working with communities and helping them figure out how to make themselves more sustainable, more viable. But they also know that that starts with strengthening the entrepreneurs in their region. So Enoch, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here with y'all. I just realized I'm wearing the same sweater as my picture here. So
You planned that, didn't you?
I guess. Anyway, yeah, so I wanted to start out before we hear from Carolyn and Levlin and Sydney in a minute about what some of their work looks like in practice in their communities around the state. I want to start by zooming out really big picture and kind of touching on some of the themes that were already shared earlier today. And I think that's really important for the role that we play in the communities we're in as rural communities. And I think so often the narrative for years has always been, oh, those backwards people in those rural communities, we'll come and bring all the stuff we figured out in the big city and show them how to do business. And I think that narrative is just wrong. And in some ways it's just backwards. And actually, I believe right now we're at a time where the things that are more maybe natural strengths in a smaller community are some of the things that actually will help our entire society move forward well in the time that we're in. So before skipping to the end here, I want to start with the big idea, right? Like Barden was sharing earlier, we're in a pretty significant kind of a transition point in society and maybe humanity as a whole. As we enter what most experts agree is the end of the industrial age. So we spent a lot of time, and these are like whole periods of civilization, right? Where we spent a lot of time having advances in technology and really the focus was on efficiency, mass production, maximizing for output. Efficiency, repeatability. And what we found is more recently, those optimizing for those things hasn't provided, it's providing diminishing returns. And so now we're seeing that there's actually other things that are that are more helpful to optimize for, like adaptability and resiliency. And one of the themes I think that's really clear is this idea that we're in a transition period, not just around things like COVID and specific issues of the day, but in a much wider transition from industrial age thinking and organizing structures and business models to something new. Many people are calling the connected age. And some of the themes, some of the ways we can look at that are, like Barden had shared, the idea of more personalization, more unique customization, and also I think some of these ideas of resiliency over efficiency, and a focus maybe on instead of built infrastructure, on social infrastructure, relationships. And what I wanted to share with y'all before we jump into the rest of this group is this idea that the types of things that are becoming clear are leading the charge, I guess, in this new age that we're entering. I firmly believe are the types of skills and structures that are naturally there in a healthy rural community, right? We already know how important relationships and trust are. We already know how important a strong, supportive community is when a disaster comes. We already know the importance of resiliency and changing things and figuring out how to recover and fix it yourself, right? A lot of these things that are more innate to a healthy rural community are the things that large organizations in many cities are trying to figure out right now. The industrial, the brokenness and the raw end of the industrial age has already come and hit a lot of small communities, and we've had to figure out how to recover and survive and build. And now, as the rest of the world is starting to get hit by some of these issues, we have some of the answers. And so I know, not every community is perfect. Some are, we're struggling in different ways, but I really think that we can look to each other now and learn from each other and realize that actually a lot of the things we need to figure out are almost more intuitive, and they're things that are in our communities already, in the stories of our communities. And that's something that's really valuable to connect with. So to boil that down maybe to two main principles that I think has become pretty clear for us in our work around the country and around the world, is that building strong communities, building strong ecosystems of support for healthy you know, not just healthy communities economically, but healthy communities relationally, comes down to two main things. One is having some clarity of purpose together, developing a shared purpose together. And then two is building up density of trust with each other, strong relationships. And when you do those two together, they build off of each other. The more trust, more clarity, purpose, and more trust. So those are some themes that I think are really valuable. And I want to dig in now with this group with Carolyn, Levelyn, and Sydney to hear more about how it's played out in their specific work. But I realized that I never share the slides here about who Co-Starters is, what we do. So I guess I should share a little bit about us, how we try to live out some of these ideas and principles, and then we'll get on to the rest of the group. I live in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area. I'm actually right over the border in Georgia. Have spent a little over 10 years working with regular people who are trying to either provide for themselves, make the world a better place, share something wonderful with the world, who accidentally stumbled into business or entrepreneurship. But really, the reason they're doing their work is to do something, you know, greater than just make some money, right? And what we found along the way is there's a whole lot of people everywhere that are just trying to figure out how to just, you know, provide for themselves and share something good with the world. And the business structures are the things that have just kind of been that annoying, frustrating thing that gets in the way and has to get figured out. And we realized there was an opportunity there to help bring people together, build a community of support for non-traditional entrepreneurs, we call them the starters, to figure out how to help each other and build up a positive community. So really, Co-Starters, what we're about, if you could skip to the next slide, is using or focusing on helping individuals and communities thrive through entrepreneurship. We started our work in Chattanooga in the South. We had a significant response in communities everywhere, grassroots leaders saying, yeah, we want to build up our community. We think there's more to business than just the suits and ties and briefcases and the crazy sock startup entrepreneur, you know, hipsters. We want a place for regular people to figure this out. And so that struck a chord, grew around the country, and then grew globally. We've supported the launch of over 15,000 small businesses over the past 5 years, and have been able to work in over 200 communities around the world. If you skip to the next slide, you can see a quick overview of some of the places we work, but primarily our focus is in small rural communities. That's where we kind of our sweet spot, where people are trying to build up community, build up the culture through entrepreneurship, and find that connection. If you skip to the next slide, I shared a little bit about this already. This idea that our work is all about people, helping people flourish, be healthy people, build up healthy communities, and then keeping it as simple and accessible as possible from there. People have been launching businesses for thousands of years, and it's only recently that we made it complicated with MBAs and all this other stuff. That's important, that's good, but we don't want to forget that business, the exchange of value and, you know, value creation is an innately human thing. And we're trying as much as we can to help kind of make that more accessible to people. And that idea that entrepreneurship doesn't even have to be tied to business, but an entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial activity is something that all of us can build up in the work that we do. If you move to the next slide, we'll see, there we go. And you can just advance through this, the next couple slides here. Yep, next one. Oops. Oh, I think my slides might have got messed up. I'm sorry. Anyway, so really our work is around finding a way forward for people who are pursuing business, starters, finding their best next step. And then the next slide is, oh, sorry about that. I had a build and it looks like it lost. And then the other thing is really helping communities understand this idea that we are in this shift from the industrial age to the connected age, and how do we think differently, expand the definition of entrepreneurship and really build up an entrepreneurial culture. And then the final step of what we do is really about building up communities of entrepreneurship, where we can connect all the different pieces, build that relational social infrastructure to help a community thrive. And so that's really where I want us to get into the wider group here. This idea of building up that ecosystem, that strong network of relationship. We were able to partner with UWA and RDI over the past several months on a project we call this Champions Model, where representatives of communities all across the state came together with different projects they were working on to build up their community, primarily through the lens of entrepreneurship. And we've been working with each other, helping build up our efforts. So all working on different things, but building up together. And that's been a really valuable experience, and look forward to hearing more from, I guess we have Levelin up next to share more about that. So with that, I guess when I hand it over to Levelin, have him share a little bit about what he's up to. And then we'll hear from Carolyn and Sydney as well, and have a little bit of discussion on how we're living these things out together across the region. So Levelin.
Thanks, Enoch. I appreciate it. Good morning to everyone, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this panel. As Tina mentioned, it, like most things, took a change from being an in-person event to a virtual event due to COVID. But I think, the messages are still very clear, starting with, we heard a little bit earlier from Wayne in terms of the necessity of having broadband access, particularly in rural and low-income areas. We here locally, and I'm actually sitting in Greensboro, Alabama, in Hale County, about a year ago, decided to actually launch a local chamber of commerce. There had not been one in our area in about 25 years. And the need actually grew out of just conversations, as Enoch talked about the need to be focused on community and people. That was how we were literally started a series of meetings where we just simply invited folks from across the county and asked the simple questions of what are some things we would want to do for our local community and had the capacity to actually influence. And with those seemingly simple questions, we were able to come up with some local priorities, of which we picked 3. And one of those included the formation of a chamber of commerce to do some of the other work. And that was how we got started. In almost a year since we've been involved, we've held a number of activities to bring people together. Our kickoff had well over 100 people, and for us locally, that was a big number in terms of getting started, people who expressed an interest in being a part in any way. We left it intentionally unstructured in terms of how people could actually come together and what they wanted to work on and how they wanted to work on it. Since that inaugural meeting, we have actually had monthly meetings and had a number of speakers both in and out of our community, because part of what we've quickly found is growing our chamber's work has been the integration and the development of this ecosystem that Enoch talked about. And that ecosystem can and does include players who are local, but also outside. And we are fortunate to have UWA as one of what we would consider one of our partners and ecosystem members that connected us, in this case, with co-starters. And we've had some of our local entrepreneurs take advantage of some of the programming available through co-starters, like the Rebuild program, in which that was launched shortly after COVID had really taken hold to help businesses figure out how to actually get started again or to rebuild themselves in this still changing environment. And those are the types of things where you don't have to invent it here, but you can still, through these ecosystem networks, be available as a convener to bring those resources into your local communities. We further expanded, in doing things here, participating in local events like our Christmas parade, which actually, helped ratchet up our visibility and brought in new members. But also, again, zooming out, we most recently had an event with the Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank, in which the president actually talked about the rural community component of what the Fed actually does. And that was a large event for us. That was one of our first virtual events, our second virtual event. At the beginning of COVID, we also held a online meeting in terms of how to help local businesses get started in terms of doing it safely. And we were able to call upon local resources as well as additional resources at the state level who provided great insight to our folks here about how they could actually reopen their businesses, church, schools, etc., in a safe manner. So these are the kind of wellspring of things that we've been involved in, and through networking, through building this ecosystem, we've been able to reach and tap into other strong resources that are immediately available to us.
Levlin, I want to ask you one question around this. You've done an incredible job. You mentioned bringing 100 people together, over 100 people together, and then building up momentum over time and keeping those people engaged. And then just, I guess it was last week, you had the culmination of sharing back all these insights that you pulled together over months. That idea of building up the social infrastructure across the region, right? In the past, a lot of emphasis has been put on building up other types of infrastructure, but you're really trying to build up this relational network. And both some clarity of purpose, some direction through this planning, and building up this trust across the group. How have you seen that work well in your efforts of bringing everyone together? Where are some successes, some breakthroughs maybe that you could share with others, and where have some of the difficult parts been in that process? I just feel like that's something that you bring to this group here on the call, where you've just gone through a pretty intense and pretty successful process in bringing people together in a really special way.
Well, first, it's clearly not done, and I appreciate your generous words of what we've been a part of. I think the way we started was very important for us in that we initially, I mentioned, prior to the formation of the chamber, actually over a 3-month period, we had 3 community-wide meetings where we simply invited people who felt they may have something to say to a meeting. And we extended an invitation, and 40 people showed up, to a great surprise. Now, we had primed the pump a bit in terms of talking to some of the folks we thought were local influencers ahead of time, which actually helped that effort. But in those 3 meetings, we simply said, if the group ever felt, and the group changed from meeting to meeting, if it ever felt that we couldn't or wouldn't want to do anything, we would simply stop. This was not an officially organized group. It had the power of the veto among everyone who was there. And I think those sorts of basic tenets actually got us off to a good start. And people, because of the void in terms of there not having been a chamber here locally, there was a void, to Natasha's point, in terms of actually finding an unmet need. We actually found an unmet need in our community, which was to be that local convener of things that were both civic, community, and economically driven. And so we were able to try to step into that void and bring some framework in which people could actually try to work against and on some of those issues. So I think those would be the initial things I would say that kind of help ground us for moving forward. The challenges have simply been, the most obvious one has been with the pandemic in terms of when you're in a small town, a lot of things are driven by meeting in person or actually social interactions that are personal. And when those went away, we lost a bit of momentum and have to kind of restart or reprime that pump, which we've been doing. But also, I think by moving some of the activity into the online and virtual world, we've actually helping to open up new avenues in which people can be available. And it also brings in a whole new set of resources that we would not have been able to either afford to have come visit with us locally, or just for the logistical challenges associated with having people to travel. And so we've seen kind of the blessing and the curse, if you will, that is associated with this pandemic, but trying to use the advantages that it does give us in terms of continuing to be involved.
Well, thank you, Levlin, for sharing all that. And I'm looking forward to what's coming. Y'all have been working hard to. I feel like the pre-work is the work, right? You've been working hard to build up this strong support, and now you're positioned to see the fruits of that work as it's all kicking off. And I'm very excited to follow that story and hopefully participate in it. So with that, I want us to jump over to Carolyn Walker up next. You'll see in her bio as it comes up on the screen, she is all kinds of busy here with different organizations that she runs. I think some of them might have got left out on her bio here, but been impressed with the number of things she does and the way that she, just in the experience I've been able to have with her, the way she is so present and willing to help and really believes in building up those around her. So Carolyn, would love to hear a little bit about your story, and particularly it would be great to hear your perspective as an entrepreneur yourself, as someone who's launching multiple initiatives and running multiple initiatives. If you could share a little bit about the role of businesses, of entrepreneurs in building up this community. That we're building a community to support businesses and support entrepreneur culture, but also entrepreneurs themselves and businesses themselves can build up that culture as well. So to whatever extent you could touch on some of that, that would be helpful as well. But we'd love to hear some of your story and your experience in this wider activity.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. Thank you, Mr. Johnny Acock and the UWA and the entire CoStar team. Thank you so much for welcoming me in to be a part of this great initiative. Yes, I am a woman that wears many hats, and I'm not new to the business world. My family has been involved with many businesses, and I, played my role in it all. But these last few years, I took the initiative and started my own thing. And Catch 22 Ministries came into existence April the 2nd in 2018 as a gateway to the millennials, connecting hearts and changing lives via the arts. But that is not all to me. I'm also a business professional, and I'm owner and founder of Gravity LLC. And that is my tax and business service business. And I'm also the owner of Kesco Sisters, which is a nonprofit for women that's going to be coming out of the pipeline here in the very near future. Catch 22 Ministry initially was designed as a ministry on the go and later to be developed into a brick and mortar building. Due to the recent pandemic, things have changed. My entire mindset and how I'm going to move forward with the business is changed. And in the very near future, Catch 22 Ministries will be doing business as Studio 22, which is a Christian entertainment hub. For those that didn't qualify for Sunday Best, Studio 22 will cover the rest. We are where dreams come alive and stars are born. Located in the beautiful Black Bay area of Sumter County, Alabama, we extend our arms of entertainment to urban, suburban, and rural undeveloped areas. We discover buried treasure in remote areas of opportunities, and we leave nothing unexposed. Shining bright like diamonds, we hold the cards and we count the stars to the next generation of brightness. That's what we're going to be doing at Studio 22. It's a millennial-focused platform for those ranging from ages 22 to 38, but we have something for all ages, as we believe that entertainment has no boundaries or age restrictions. I wrote the vision for the company and I made it plain. I started with publishing and promoting my first book, a series of something serious, hosting events and doing speaking engagements. I've had an online SB store selling my arts, and we're now entering into 3 years of my planning, which is launching Studio 22, which is the Christian Entertainment Hub. I'm very excited about it, scared, but ready to explore the world of the arts. Not sure if I will be able to continue due to COVID-19, but the opportunity with UWA and the CoStar program presented itself, and I took advantage of it. And normally I wouldn't, I would get emails, different things to try to get involved in. And, I'm just that type of person that just kind of want to be in my own little shell. But this time I took the courage and I took advantage of the 10-week course with CoStarters, and it gave me hope. It really did. During the class, I met some very good people who were in the same predicament as myself. And here we are, during the class, merging our thoughts together and wondering what it is that we could do to weather the current storm. I was able to, get some ideas from them. It's like, hey, you should, not just throw the towel in on your business, maybe look into doing an online format and just revamp your whole process. So I was able to do that in the middle of the class. And that took me from anxiety to creativity. And, we stumbled across suggestions on how we can help each other. So during that time, I was able to not only connect with different people, but build off of some of their ideas, and some of the ways that we can do business online. So Studio 22 will be hosting our business in an online format. And as I go forward, I hope to connect with different people throughout the Black Belt area to for the vision to move forward. Some of the advantages and benefits of working with co-starters was that it helped me to think outside the box and be creative. It helped me to build my confidence and believe in the platform that I have built. And it helped me to understand my customers and their different needs and help me find solutions and how to refocus my market. It's also helped me to explore different sources of capital that is available to small business owners. So with that being said, coming in under the Co-Starters program afforded me the opportunity to not only to connect and build relationship with people within my class, I also connected with others outside of it. And that's with people in my community. And I'm sure that Ms. Sidney with the Sumter County Chamber of Commerce would come in and share with you some of the things that, she and I are working on. And that's one of the collaboration efforts that I decided to link up with to help make a difference in my community, as well as Mr. Leveling Rowe. We're going to be working with him on bringing broadband into the Black Belt area. We'll be targeting 4 counties, which is Sumter, Marengo, Hale, and Greene County.
Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for sharing this. We're actually coming up on our time, and I want to make sure Cindy gets the chance to share. But,
Okay.
It's hard to stop you with all the good things you're sharing there. That's just wonderful. You were able to join a group of peers, get surrounded by a supportive group that helped you find that hope and that resolve, and that being healthy personally put you in a creative space where you're able to problem solve, get your business on track. And now here you are investing in your community and your region.
Yes.
And coming alongside Levelyn and Sydney to give back to the community through your business, everything else. A wonderful story. Thanks so much for sharing. And Sydney, let's round out with you to wrap us up and hear a little bit about your work.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be with you guys today and get to speak to you a little bit about rural chambers of commerce and their role that they play in entrepreneurship. And I want to say that, COVID has changed things for so many. And I actually began in my role here with the Sumter County Chamber of Commerce on April the 1st of this year. So things have been quite different than I anticipated stepping into this role. Previously, I was with the Demopolis Area Chamber of Commerce. And so I do have a little bit of chamber background and experience, and I love what I do. And I love to be able to help small businesses in rural communities and to see them grow. And I think a lot of times people see chambers as, retail development and business recruitment and that kind of thing. But it has been a passion of mine to really be a source for small businesses and family-owned businesses, because as many of you know that are in rural communities, it's really those small businesses, those mom and pop stores and services that keep our communities going. And for me and the Sumter County Chamber, business retention and support is so important for us. And that's definitely where we put a lot of our focus here. And small businesses can gain so much from chamber membership. It automatically gives them credibility in the business community as well as in the community as a whole by being part of a larger organization that sponsors business activity. And we also provide support and networking opportunities and the ability to really get your name out there. For example, we have a restaurant opening up here in Livingston today. It's their opening day, and they participated in our scarecrow contest. And yes, their sign has been up for a few months, and everybody's been anticipating their opening, but they were able to participate in a community event and had Facebook spotlights and that kind of thing because they participated and are a member of our chamber. So just small steps that businesses can take, small businesses can take with chambers of commerce to grow their business and to grow their support network and their visibility, and kind of take things from a rural perspective to more of a regional perspective as well. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Sydney. And I love the way that you, things that seem almost insignificant and silly, like a scarecrow contest, right? It's just fun and games. But in reality, that's building up that relational network. It's building up those connections, and it is positioning them for even, accelerating their success as they open their doors, because they're more connected and they have more visibility in their community. So great version, a great story, great example of building up community through this work in a way that builds up business. I have one final question for the three of y'all before we wrap up our time, and that's related to this ambassador program that we're all a part of here. And so I just want to recognize, thank Johnny for his support in this, and recognize this group of a little bit over a dozen community leaders from across the region who have participated in this ambassador program, facilitated by co-starters, by myself. And it's been so wonderful to see just the way this group has worked together to support each other and bring up the problems and the opportunities and celebrate the wins and help connect each other across the whole region. So I just want to very quickly hear just kind of the one sentence of what that experience has been like for y'all. You shared the work that you're doing in your community, but I want to just go the level up and talk about, if you could, the value of connecting with others across the region through this network, this ambassador network that y'all have been a part of. What's that been like for you, and what has the value been for that experience?
Yeah, I'll step in and go first. I will say that it's been really eye-opening because so oftentimes I think we kind of get stuck in our own minds and think that we are the only ones that are facing challenges, and that our challenges are unique. But through the Co-Starters Ambassador Program, my eyes have been open to that so many people are facing so many of the same challenges and dilemmas that we are. And we can really be of benefit and a resource to others. And especially during these challenging times, when we started the Co-Starters Ambassador Program, we had no idea that COVID was going to be such a problem for this year. And to have that support network moving through the pandemic has been really incredible, and it has allowed me to get to meet so many new people and to create new contacts. And so I'm super thankful to have co-starters in the ambassador program.
I'll jump in to ditto what Sydney said, but it has done a number of things. Number one would be just to connect you with people across the region that you may not have come in contact with. And then two would be to really have a shared resource that someone else may be working on something and they can actually provide insights. And we've seen numerous instances where somebody is working on, I think there was one member of the group that was working on building a park in their in their community. And they were able to share some of the basic resources that they found with someone else who was thinking about doing that. So it really kind of cut through and makes more efficient use of your time and resources when you have this ready-made group that you can tap into. And I think that's been one of the biggest benefits of the group as we continue to move forward.
Carolyn, you want to wrap us up?
Yes, I will wrap those up. It has been very rewarding and informative for me. Just being able to connect and collaborate with others and share similar ideas. And not only that, but being able to share some of our experience and knowledge in areas that they might not have skills in. So it has been very rewarding. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing some of that. And the reason I wanted to highlight that is the interconnection across our network, across this region, can be so valuable. It's been so valuable for this group. And that's what this event's all about. And I just want to encourage us to find ways that we can stay connected with each other and support each other in an ongoing way in whatever structure we can find, because that can be so helpful for us working through times that are unclear as to what the future is. So thank you all for joining us for this panel, and I'll hand it back to you, Tina, as we go forward from here.
Thank you. And I also want to thank all of your panelists, and I want to congratulate Sydney as she runs out on us to go cut the ribbon of that new business in downtown, because they literally are having their ribbon cutting in just a few moments. But it also gives us a chance right before we go to Donald, which is great to wrap up with a local resource that small businesses can take advantage of as a small business development center in their local communities, is that I'm hearing over and over again, and this was a question you asked at the very beginning, Ken, of what happens when we hit a wall and how do we overcome that wall? And so in listening to these three entrepreneurs, what I really hear is that having that support system and that network and being able to bounce ideas off of each other becomes one of those real tools to scaling that wall rather than just hitting it and bouncing right back off. And am I wrong in hearing that? Let's see. There he is.
Yep. If that's directed at me, no, not at all. You absolutely.
Yeah, it was directed at you, Ken. That just from, it seems like we've come full circle. We started with people, yes, and we're ending with those individual people at the very at the very end here. So before our next and last and final speaker, so Donald, that doesn't mean you're any less important than anybody else, is Donald Mills. And Donald serves as our director of the Small Business Development Center here at the University of West Alabama. And that, of course, is part of a larger organization called the Small Business Association. So Donald, will you tell us a little bit about your organization and the services that you can provide to entrepreneurs?
Sure, and thank you, Dr. Jones, for this opportunity to co-sponsor the summit today. The Small Business Development Center is a network member of the Alabama Small Business Development Center Network. There are 10 small business development centers throughout the state of Alabama, and most of them are located on college campuses. The SBDC here at the University of West Alabama serve 5 counties in the Black Belt area. We cover Sumter County, Marengo County, Clark County, Choctaw County, and Wilcox County. And we provide a range of services. We assist individuals who are interested in starting or expanding a small business. Those individuals who may come in and they have that idea that they want to turn into a business. And we provide services along the areas of business plan development, financial analysis, pre-venture counseling, research and development assistance, marketing planning assistance, business regulations and licenses, bookkeeping and accounting, financing and loan packaging assistance. And one of the things that I kind of heard as a central theme today was really inspired with Natasha and Barton with their business ventures. And Natasha, you mentioned hitting that wall and COVID. One of the things, other areas that we work with small businesses with is preparing a disaster preparedness plan, and also doing a contingency plan. And the SBDC's experienced some things in 2011 with the tornadoes in Tuscaloosa, and then in 2018 with the tornado in Jacksonville, Alabama, where we had 2 small business development centers who were directly impacted by those events. So we began to help small businesses prepare for that, but no one was prepared for COVID. So again, we have, as everyone else, have experienced being put in the forefront where we've had to help some businesses who were really struggling. So we were able to provide assistance in the area of the SBA programs that were presented, the PPP program and the EIDL program. We had many clients who we assisted with applying for those programs, many who would not be in business if they were not able to get those resources to help them. In our startup phase, I have a little analogy that we use, which we call the Wizard of Oz theme. And again, Natasha, you hit on that. If you have a passion for what you do, it's really not a job. So with the Wizard of Oz theme, we tell clients that there are three things that those characters from the Wizard of Oz was looking for. That was a heart, which is passion, courage, which it does take to be in business, and also the knowledge takes the mind. So from that concept, we provide assistance to clients throughout the business life cycle. And there are some who are right now, because of the pandemic, looking at whether they'll have to close. So we are even working with some businesses helping them. But I would like to just close with this and saying that, again, Natasha, you hit on something really good, being able to come up with an alternative revenue stream. That is very important for small businesses who are struggling right now, if they can identify some other areas that they can diversify into, or something that they can do differently to sustain them through the period that they're going through now. So again, we're located in Guy Hunt Technical Complex here on campus. Ms. Finjan Yvette Zhang serves as our business advisor here, and I put our contact information in the chat area. So if you are interested in starting a business or in business and want to grow or expand that business, certainly reach out to the Small Business Development Center.
Donald, thank you. I think that's a great analogy at the end of the Wizard of Oz, especially when we're talking about rural communities, because there also is there's no place like home as part of that theme of Wizard of Oz as well. And as Barden mentioned, look at all the things that we can bring home to Sweet Home Alabama if we just put our minds to that, and what we can share with the rest of the world when we do that. I want to thank each of our panelists for being here with us today and sharing us their ideas. But also I want to remind you that those of you who are participating along with our panelists, you are, as Barden mentioned to us at the beginning, we're now associated with each other. So we've created our own network today in which we have built, and so this is a set of resources and also a support system for you that we have created here today, and that builds on one step at a time. And so we hope that some of the stories have inspired you and encouraged you. I know that I certainly have been inspired and encouraged to embrace the ideas that are right there in my grasp, if I'll just take time to look at them, but also to look at those core values and understand who we are, so that we can move forward together, and also the people that I work with can move forward as well and achieve their dreams and goals. So thank you all for being here. And just a reminder, we have put some things in the chat box as far as Donald's information. Enoch has shared with him a virtual event that is coming up with co-starters, but we'll be doing a follow-up email with you and link you to the traction book that Ken DeWitt mentioned at the beginning. Also, we'll attach the work booklet, and we'll provide a link to the UWA Works website for current and future programs. We'll be sharing the slides at the end of the event, and remember to go to eosworldwide.com and look at that EOS development model. Hopefully these resources would help you be the entrepreneur that you want to be, and be as innovative and get you where you want to be. Because as Natasha said, when we're making decisions today, they will impact us 5 years from now. It was great to hear all of you, and we hope you will share, the attendees, your feedback to us of other programs that we may offer that helps grow our rural communities and help them be resilient, sustainable, and successful. Thank you guys for being with us today.